This is part 3 of our series on the Vander Werf family's life experiences living in Holland during its occupation by the Germans in World War II. You'll hear the stories in this part of how the family became involved in Mennonite Church in Holland. And as was mentioned in part 2, they received a Christmas bundle and the name of Manson people, which led to their moving to the community of Manson, Iowa in 1948. You'll hear stories about their life in Holland before they left, and also some stories about their life in Manson. The Southeast Iowa connection to this family is that they lived in Iowa, first of all, and secondly, Isabel and then Julie came to Iowa Mennonite School, so they became part of Southeast Iowa community. Isabel married Don Miller, resident of Kelowna, and they raised their family in Kelowna, but now live in Elkhart. Julie married John Gingrian and continues to be a resident in Kelowna. So, enjoy this continuing story of life in the war and the changes that people made. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
The Mennonite Church that we were in.
So we went to the Manson Mennonite Church. Then I went in 1W service.
And that's the rest of the story.
Where'd you go?
Evanston, or Miller, but Ed Miller.
Ed, yeah.
Ed
Was
Miller,
Logan there too?
Yeah.
Dale Logan?
Oh, Dale, yeah.
Sure.
Marlon's brother.
Those are all my buddies, you know, all the, yeah, we all were in Evanston.
Okay.
Yeah, we had our life there.
Mm-hmm.
You had a lot of fun.
We had,
So Issy, what do you remember about Holland?
Well, I do remember when the Canadians came into town and freed us over there by the post office. So, of course, I run around, you know. They had to tie me up when I was younger because I just took off. But anyway, I remember them coming into town. And my two friends and I, Mariana and Katie, you know, we just played around not knowing that Mariana's dad and mom are both teachers, but her dad was also a collaborator. And I don't know if John said, but they got shot. The collaborators got shot after they were put in prison and then shot. But yeah, I remember playing with the girls, and I got pictures of me and them, and I remember going to the Mennonite Church. Well, first of all, I went to a Catholic school, and until I got my mouth taped shut, I talked in class. And I got my mouth taped shut, the nuns taped it shut, and came home, and oh, Dad was furious because they couldn't get the tape off. And of course, I walked through town coming home with the tape on my mouth, so everybody saw it.
Woo!
So, anyway, do you remember them trying to get that tape off my mouth?
yeah,
They had a heck of a time.
Yeah,
He
I
was
remember.
so mad. So that was the end of the Catholic school, and then I went to a school downtown in the hour.
open bottom.
Yeah, and I do remember going to a Christmas Eve service at the Mennonite Church. They had a Christmas Eve service there, and Mom had the front room all set for Christmas Day for us to have, you know, to have a nice meal. And I also remember when we were sitting in the kitchen there in the dining room, and the door opened, and in flies candy and peanuts, and I think that was Cousin Young
Yeah.
did that. And I got to go see St. Nicholas on the horse coming into town. Mom took me downtown. So I remember those things, but there's just some little snatches of things that I remember. But,
Sure.
and I don't like the sound of, what was the airplanes that flew over?
The bombers.
The bombers, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That sound, even now, there's an airplane once in a while that sounds like that, and it's just, I don't like it.
Is that right?
But,
We just got bombed once by friendly bombers. The coffee, tea, and tobacco factory that was just beyond our furniture factory, it got bombed. Oh, I don't know, it was in 43 or 44, because they produced stuff to go to Germany. You know, they truck it out, and you know, we would be not having much, but they have it all in Germany. So one day they came over from England and through the underground, probably because they had radio contact overseas with them somehow, somewhere, and they would send planes from England over. And one day we had 3-4 bombers come fly over, and the Germans didn't go after for whatever reason, and they flew over once, and they usually do that to warn people, because there's some other instances out there. To warn people to hide or to get out, or to get out of the way. So they did that, and then that was during the day. I seen them come back over again, and then they bombed the factory, and they pretty well blew most of it up because they had to rebuild it again quick, because the Germans would make sure that they had their stuff. But yeah, that was the only bombing that we had in town or just outside of town that they really did that. But on everyday occurrences, we had Spitfires in the Spitfire planes from England come over quite often, and of course the Germans were always after them, shooting them. But we'd be out and about or on a bike somewhere, and we'd hear them coming. Then we know, what are they going to shoot up this time? And it was the Spitfires, of course. And a couple of times there's a highway just south of Yaura, and there was traffic on that, and they were told that there's going to be trucks with cheese going to Germany, and they were alarmed, and they would come, and they'd come over, and they'd go over once, make sure that the truck driver got out of the seat and stop the truck and get out. They swung over once, and we'd watch, and there they go and shoot that truck to pieces with all the cheese in it. They had nothing but Swiss cheese then. Oh man, I tell you, and that happened quite often. Or it was a train that was hauling stuff, and then because we lived near the railroad station, and
oh yeah,
we had trains go on 3 different directions, and then we'd hear these fighter planes come over, and then we'd say, no, where are they gonna go now? And then you make sure that you were not anywhere close, and they would shoot up whatever they were told to go and get. But the Germans couldn't do much about it because them little Spitfire, they were so fast, be up and gone in no time. And that was kind of a, not daily, but quite often that these things would happen. They would come over and shoot the stuff up. If something was on the way to Germany, then they would make sure that it got shot up or didn't get there at all. They'd shoot the locomotive up to stop the train, and they couldn't go. Those things happen quite often, but that's part of war life that you get used to, seeing planes and stuff happening like that. It's just.
well then
It was so nice to have it. Canadians come in and
take over.
chase them all out.
Well, then Mom told me too that when I was born, there were Jewish nurses that worked with her, and there were Jewish babies in the nursery.
Really?
And one day she came back to work, and the nurses were gone, and the Jewish babies were gone. So they had rounded them up already and taken them. So she felt so bad. The girls were saying that she always felt that she should have been able to do something, but she couldn't. It's just one of those things that.
So during those war years, did your schools function like normal?
Until maybe 44, then we wouldn't have heat in school. We would go until it got too cold, and then we didn't have school after that. Then the last year, the winter of 45, nobody had school anymore.
Really?
Because there was no heat at all
I don't
from
remember.
the end of 44, 45. Yeah.
It
We,
Were you able to have church services most every Sunday?
we had church service. Yeah, we had it until one Sunday morning. All of a sudden, we hear these planes flying over real close during the church service, and all of a sudden they would let loose and they would shut up the gas factory where they made what do you call it? Artificial gas out of coke, and they shot that up while we were in church. Of course, we all rushed out of church because we didn't know where they were shooting at, and we could hear them and fly over, and so we all rushed out of church and didn't go back to church again. But over there, we didn't have a church. Of course, our church burned down, so we went to the Christian Reformed Church. The Dutch Reformed went to the Christian Reformed Church. We had an afternoon service. They had the morning service, we had the afternoon service. We could use the church. So we were, sharing the church building. And that's how we got by until we got our church back. Of course, the bad thing was that, the beautiful organ in that church, that all burned. They got another organ back, because I remember when we first started using it, I was back to the church after the war several times, I remember, because my uncle and aunt, they were still going to church, and I went back with cousin John and Yocky and all my cousins that lived nearby. We all
on the Bauman side.
yeah, on the Bauman side. We all went to the Dutch Reformed Church.
Yeah.
And then, of course, then things changed when we came here. We went to the Mennonite Church and went to the Mennonite Church until, through work. We were going to the Prairie Street Church all that time. And then, I know, we got wiped out by a tornado in 65, was it? Yeah, we were wiped out by a tornado.
Yeah, Manson.
Mishawaka Road.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were all wiped out. And of course, they had the Mennonite disaster service. They were in charge of cleaning up and putting things back together. And I was working for a contractor at the time in Elkhart, and he was from Holland, the contractor was, and we were building the Mennonite seminary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we built that with that contractor. I was working for him at that time. And then we were working on a house in Goshen on, what's the name of that? I took the other day, it's by the pond over there,
Fiddlers?
Carter Road, just south of the hospital there. We were building a house for
I can't say his name either, they would know it.
Schrock.
That's it. Yeah.
Schrock, who owns the boat company. Anyway, built a house for him, big, fancy house. Architect was out of Chicago, and Virgil and I, we pretty much built the whole place with some help. Anyway, on that house, it was all brick, and we had the masons there working. And I was walking around there, and the guys were just throwing mud, buildings and brick. And they were talking, and I'd listen and say, and I think, they're talking Frisian. I said, oh, wait a minute. So then I said something back to them in Frisian, and here it was the mason contractor from our church now, and goes to Vander and Sons. They're the masons for Henry Knook. He did all the mason work for them. So I started talking to them and Frisian to them, and we got connected, and then they said, well, we have a Dutch church here in Goshen. I said, what? How can that be? Well, come to find out, that was the Dutch church. The Christian Reformed Church was Dutch, and they were all Dutch people that went to that church. And so they invited us to come to church there on a Sunday afternoon at 5 o'clock. They always had service at 5 o'clock again. So joined them and went to church with them, and been there ever since.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just like that. Yep. Just fell right in with the Dutch again.
It was like coming home, wasn't it?
What's that?
It was like coming home.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because all the Hugenbooms and Stellingwerfs and you name it, they were all Dutch people.
Grensters.
Now it's pretty well weeded out. They all have not died, but the main original people, they came from East Goshen, where the original old Dutch church was, the real Dutch. And they built this church over here on Green Road. So now the Green Road Church is our church, but they're still, people still call it the Dutch church, although we dropped the whole name. It's the Green Road Church now. That's the name now. And that's, so we try to get rid of this image of being Dutch, because it didn't help the church. As the people got older and died, and the children grew up with other churches, it became not Dutch anymore. And we tried to unload that, and it's worked that way.
Okay.
So now we have everybody, I hope.
Yeah.
So,
We missed on the recording your initial talking about how you viewed the Germans when they first came to your town. So
Yeah.
why don't you talk about that again, how you went and with your bicycle and...
how they
Watched them.
confiscated things, the Germans, they tried to,
Well, you kind of viewed them as friendly people in the beginning.
they were.
Tell that
Friendly
story.
at first, maybe the first 6 months, until we found out they were not so friendly, because they start taking things away from us, and they start putting the restrictions on us, and curfews, and you name it, and they didn't plunder Holland, but they sure took away a lot of things that were, to us important, like the bicycles and what have you. And then bicycle tires were hard to get, because the rubber wasn't available. So a lot of people made wooden tires.
Really?
Yeah. They put pieces of wood together and with clips and put it all together and put it on there. And noisy? Talk about a noisy bicycle.
On the brick streets.
Oh, that was noisy. But, yeah, of course, we all wore wooden shoes
Okay,
most of the
Oh, yeah.
time. And a leather shoes was hard to get, but you had a pair of Sunday shoes. You know, you only wear Sundays to church. So we always tried to have a pair of leather shoes. But the wooden shoes were, everybody in school, everybody went with wooden shoes.
I
And
still
then
have
during the
mine.
war, Dad made sure that they last longer. He'd take them to work, and he'd make them smooth, and he'd make a wood sole for it, and glue it on there, and we have new soles on our wooden shoes. And we'd wear them again for another 6 months or so.
Yeah, and I still have mine.
do you?
Yeah, I've still got mine too. I got a couple pairs.
Yeah, I have another pair now,
I
but from,
don't wear them too much anymore, but if it's muddy and dirty and wet
they're
outdoors,
warm.
you just step in them, go outside, and leave them by the
Yeah.
door again. Because you
Yeah.
never come in a house with shoes on.
No,
We never did.
no. We had wool
know.
socks.
You kick them off by the door,
Yeah.
so you're always in socks. Yeah, we made it through the war, and we were very blessed.
Yeah. We were.
Yep. Yep, we
I think
sure
I probably
were.
have enough material. Very interesting story. Tell
We
us
didn't
about
have
it.
a car, so we went and got a old
I got a picture.
30, what was it, 35, 34, 35 Chevy with the, you know, with the front end that, then, okay. But then I had to learn how to drive. I could speak English somewhat, so I had to learn how to drive. So we were at the Cardi Bones farm, and across the street was the fairgrounds over there in Manson. And then he would take me out on the fairgrounds, going around.
Look at there.
Yep, there's the car, and that's it. Yep, the old 35, I think it was, Chevy. And we'd learn to drive shift stick, you know, and clutch,
Oh, gotcha.
which totally new to me. But I caught on, and I learned how to drive pretty good over there. Then I went to Rockwell City, and I got my driver's license. So I was the official chauffeur for the family.
Oh, okay.
So I had to chauffeur them around. Mom and Dad would get in and, well, where do you want to go now? You know, so we'd drive all over the country just because we were not used to driving in cars, you know. So they'd have me go everywhere. Well, then the time come that Dad needed to know how to drive. So I had to teach Dad how to drive. Oh, I'm telling you. He, you know, he had a mind of his own. And he had a heck of a time learning how to drive with a clutch. Oh my goodness gracious. I don't know how many times we had. I thought the clutch was gonna go out one of these days, but, you know, he made it through, and he did learn how to drive eventually. And he did get his driver license. I don't know how he got by with the language, but, because he didn't speak much English.
No.
And what he did
not.
speak was so broken, you know, it was more
So-
Dutch than English.
Your family never had a car in Holland?
Oh, nobody did. Only the doctors and the lawyers and garage people or taxis. That was the only automobile that you could get over there. Of course, after the war, for the first time, we had a garage across the field from us over there. They had a new car there after the war, and it was a Studebaker. And man, when I saw a Studebaker, that was out of this world kind of a looking car. You remember what the first Studebakers looked like? How modern and round and everything compared to the old cars, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that Studebaker was really, really something. I never got to ride in it, but we got to see them over there. They drove around in them.
So what year did you arrive at Manson?
48. Yep.
So after the war ended, it was a couple years till it
Yeah,
would have been 3 years.
Yep.
So what was life like in your town during that time?
Well, the first, month almost, we definitely but celebration. We just had more parades and more activities and more bands and things showed up, that never were used for 5 years. Everything come to light, and everybody wanted to get in on all the celebrations and games and everything they could think of. We just celebrated and celebrated day in, day out. And that book that I'm looking for shows all that stuff, and I cannot find it. Shows everything about how the Canadians came into town. I got pictures of all that stuff,
Okay.
and I can't find it.
Oh,
I don't know what happened to it.
Izzy, you got some pictures you want to put on here?
Well, I got lots of pictures. I got a picture of our house, the ship we came on. You'll have to look at it though, before you decide what you want to do. I'm gonna have to move that. Well, here's a picture of Mom, our mother in town. Remember that, John? That's our mother. When she was young. I think I got that from from Cousin John. Okay, this is, I have to show you. This is our mother, our real mother right here. And that was their wedding picture. Right there.
Okay.
So then,
That's Mom again.
that's Mom again and her family. This is our grandparents. Look very Dutch, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And that, what they have over their head, that solid gold
yeah.
with what do you call that, white stuff over it,
And
lace.
this is Dad in school. In, what do you call it, John? Drafting school?
Which one's your dad?
I'd have to get my glasses on. I think it's this one here,
Okay.
but I'm not
I can
sure.
tell
John
you.
would have to look.
I'll tell you.
I don't have my glasses on.
That's right there
Yeah,
in the middle.
that's what I thought. Okay, our mother's family had 3 sets of twins, or 2 sets. She was a twin. Okay, and there's some pictures of Holland, but this is our house.
That's what, we slept upstairs there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these are the things during the war that you had to have. It was an identification thing with a picture that you had to have with you. Okay, let's
Well, I
see.
got a step ladder to get up to
The hospital I was born at.
It just went up.
Can you see it too, John? There's John and me when
We did get to go.
there's hardly any baby pictures of me.
Uh-huh.
There's, that's the ship we came over on. These are passport pictures.
Huh?
This is the dress I was talking about that was made out of, the care package.
Oh, yeah, caretaker
Yeah, Dr.
material.
Akka made it. And now this is our mother's tombstone in Holland. She's still there. I mean,
Yep.
I think she's still there.
Oh,
She didn't run away,
that's
yeah.
pretty good. I have to remember that one.
this is something about, I think when I was baptized,
Yep, baptized.
up the dope.
Dope, on the dope.
All right, but then, and then that talks about our ship. But here's a thing that was in the Netherlands family, and that's in the Manson Journal in Calhoun County. So that would talk about that. And that's Dad with his job.
I
And-
forgot to tell you
and John-
another part that I should have had in there
You can still do.
about during the war. I'll tell you.
And that would be
Okay, go ahead.
Clothes were hard to get. And my dad, being a barter, he was able to go to the farms and get wool from them, from those that had sheep. So he would bring that home. And next thing he brought home was the spinning wheel. And he said, well, you learn how to spin wool and I'll get the wool for you. So I learned how to spin wool, and I spin wool all winters long. And then we'd go ourselves, we'd go after school, go out to farms and check out all the barbed wire and all the wool that was hanging on the barbed wire where the sheep were. And we'd collect that and bring it home, and then I'd just be spinning, and we made clothes.
Socks.
Everything was made out of wool. Your underwear was wool, your socks was wool, underpants were wool. I mean, everything was out of wool, itchy like crazy, but we were warm, and it served the purpose, and Mom did all the knitting. Boy, she could knit 100 miles an hour, and she'd be knitting and knitting and knitting, and I would spin and spin, and I really got to liking to do that. And every once in a while, I see one and I said, man, we ought to get one. I'd like to go and start it again.
Yeah.
There's a little trick to it, but man, I tell you, somehow I caught on, and man, I could spin